Welcome to Any Given Chance podcast. Stories about passion and sacrifice. What actually goes on behind the scenes in the consistent chase of everything. We're going to bring you some untold stories, some of people you know, some of people you don't. These stories that we bring on with our guests are nothing short of inspiring and will get you out there chasing your own goals as well. Join me, your host, 3am 365, Matty Menyon, as we dive into these incredible stories. And of course, as the podcast grows, so do we together. So stick with us from the start, hit that like and share, subscribe button, get your family and friends involved, and we'll see where we are in 100 podcasts. No days off, no excuses. Massive shout out to our sponsor, Squad Athletica. Guys, this training gears, you've got the training singlets, the shirts, they've got absolutely everything. They've got the 12-inch shorts, the 16, everything that you need for the running. It doesn't stop there. They've got yoga mats, they've got drink bottles, they've got you covered at all bases. I'm telling you, this training gear is rivaling Nike, it's rivaling Under Armour, it's at the forefront. And the best thing about it is it's right here on the Gold Coast. So support a local business. You can jump over their Instagram. It's at SQD Athletica, or you can jump online and check out their shop, Squad Athletica. Go through, select your little things, what you want to buy, new hoodies for winter, whatever training gear you need, and then type in your AGC code at the end, which will give you a little discount. That's AGC in the little coupon code. Can't thank you enough, and make sure you get out there and get in your squad gear. Woo! Big shout out to one of our sponsors, Black Rose Barbers. That's right. Go see Liam and the boys over at Black Rose Barbers. They're located on Lakeview Boulevard over at Mermaid Waters, right in between the Good Life and the 7-Eleven. Walk out of there feeling $1 million. The boys can cut hair, and he even does the cutthroat razor if you want to feel really fresh and fit on a Friday. You can book online at blackrose.com, or you can get on the phone and give them a call, but go support your local business. And the best thing about Black Rose Barber, you can sit in that chair and talk maximum amount of crap. You know why? Because the boys have got the answers. They'll solve the world's problems with you. I'm telling you now, they're a bunch of legends. Go support them. Tell them Matty from AGC sent you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Any Given Chance podcast. I've had a million messages. Everybody wanted to know the man. He is here. Everybody knows I love him. Wiggo, winter time. How you going?
Good, bro. What's happening?
Mate, podcasting and blasting you every time you get a winner on social media.
Yeah, how good.
The boys, they're always messaging me going, when's Wiggo coming on? Or what's Wiggo got today? And I'm like, yeah, he's the grouse. He's the bomb. So I'm the biggest fan, little fanboy.
Yeah, how good.
But mate, Any Given Chance podcast, I know your story. You know, you've seen the bright lights down in Sydney. You've come back. You've had to do a lot of hard work, and you've transitioned into where you are now. And very experienced jockey. But what I want to focus on today was actually that transition. You know, coming out of the apprenticeship, your move up to Queensland, which led into a Group 1 win. Very elusive. Like, yeah, there's a lot of Group 1 now, but it's still very hard to tick that off the bucket list. And I think that was a really good effort of you leading into that. And then we're going to jump on and speak about, you know, your trips overseas and writing work overseas and jump into some stories there. So if you don't mind, just giving the viewers a little description of where you come, like your little story background and how you got into jockeying. And
yeah, well, I'm originally a Canberra boy, unfortunately.
Do you follow the Raiders?
No. Roosters.
Roosters, that's right.
Roosters / Broncos these days. Yeah, originally Canberra. My dad was a jockey. My uncle was a jockey when I was growing up. Pretty much lived at the racetrack. I spent my weekends, my parents separated when I was younger, so my weekends was spent with my father on the weekends, and they only used to race on Saturdays. So on Friday afternoon after school, I'd go to my dad's, and he'd be there sweating it out in the sauna and follow him around and do everything that he did and go to the race with him on Saturday and then play footy at the races while they're all racing. And then, you know, when I got a bit older, I got a little bit more interested in the racing. And, yeah, I was pretty much just born and bred into it, to be honest.
Yeah. Your father was a good jockey, wasn't he?
Good jockey. Him and my uncle Stu, they were very good jockeys. Like, they were in the Canberra district there area, and they used to ride all the winners. Obviously heavyweight jockeys too. And they were cut short. Obviously, I think they both retired about 27, 28. So, which is pretty young for a jockey. But these day and age with, you know, the science we know about, you know, dieting and losing weight and that sort of stuff, everything's changed these days. They used to just do it the old school way, ride once a week, waste your guts out all friggin' week and then just blow out Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, do it all again, and it's just balloon up, yo-yoing and what we call now is pretty much like it's no good for you what they used to do.
It's not
No,
at all.
well, you know yourself, your metabolism stops, everything stops, and yeah, it's no good for you. But yeah, obviously with the nutrition we have these days, it's a lot easier and they might have got a bit more out of their career if they knew a little bit more like we do these days.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't that weird how, like, I find that even now, like, they get a lot of young rugby league players that come in, and I wouldn't mind seeing them weight like the NFL. So the NFL, you got to play your college ball, and then you come into it. By the time you hit NFL, you're 23, 24, 25, and then you actually play through your man strength.
Yeah.
Where a lot of NRL is, you're 18, here you go let 120 kilo, fooey, moi, run straight at you, kid. Sam Walker, prime example.
And that's where injuries come from.
Yeah, Benji Marshall.
Yeah, and like when you're young and you're not fully developed, obviously, especially with football players, the contact sport and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not great for your body.
No.
And it's the same thing with being a jockey. Like what you do to your body early on, if you're a bit of a heavyweight, it's not good for you later on.
No.
So.
Well, Lukey Dittman, prime example, 6 foot tall, and he's just stayed light his whole life just because he loves riding. Dylan Givens,
Dylan's the same.
Yeah, he's tall. But that was a good story. That was a good podcast the other week, Andy, about holding him back.
Yeah.
You know, doing it right. Getting the experience.
But that's experience of having your father being a jockey. Like I said with my dad too. As much as he did it really tough, he just didn't want me to do what he did because he knew what he had to sacrifice, and it's not as much as the riding's great. And even now the riding's great, but the shit part of racing is the other side of it no one sees. And riding, for me, going out and riding horses, riding winners is the most fucking easiest part of the whole thing. Like it's just natural. It's like going out and catching a wave. It's easy to catch a wave, but going out there to try and teach someone how to get out there and catch that wave is another thing. So no one sees that. They only see you coming in on the wave and how good you look. Yeah. It's not seeing how you struggle to get out there. So, yeah.
So obviously born and bred into it and off to Sydney.
Yeah. So I was with John Morrissey.
Yeah,
he's in the Gold Coast there now.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, I got skull dragged to Sydney. I didn't want to go. I was the king of my own little castle. There wasn't many kids around Canberra that stage, and it was easy to get rides and easy to ride winners, and I was in one of the big stables, that sort of thing. So, yeah, Malcolm Fitzgerald, actually, I always say, he was a part of the jockeys situation down there in New South Wales. I think he still is, to be honest. I don't know if he still is, but yeah, he skull dragged me. He's like, mate, just go. If you don't like it for 3 months, just come back. It'll always be here when you come back, which he was always right.
Yeah.
And I went there for 3 months, and I'm like, I'm never fucking going back ever again. It's too cold, and just, I don't know. I've been out of Canberra, but not like Sydney, you know what I mean? And I lived there, and I lived at Warwick Farm, and yeah, I ended up doing about 8 months there with Mark and Clary Connors, and, rode a few winners, and it just changed my trajectory of everything. So I stayed there for 10 years, not Warwick Farm, but yeah, I stayed on the Warwick Farm for about another 2 years after that, and then moved out to Randwick. And then next minute, you're like 22, 23.
Earning good money.
Yeah. Riding winners for Bart Cummings. And, you think, how good's this? This is just going to last forever, which it doesn't, but yeah, and then that led me to come towards Brisbane in the end. I think it was actually a thing called EI, a bad horse disease. And I was at Randwick when it happened, and it stopped all racing for about 2 or 3. I don't know, many people know this, about 2 or 3 months. In about 2007 or 2006, it was it's kind of like the Hendra virus.
I do that.
It's
I remember the Hendra.
The Hendra virus. It's kind of like the Hendra virus, but it wasn't. And it was coming from Centennial Park across the road from Randwick. And the horses, they have heaps of ponies and show horses there, and they were giving it, contaminating the feed or maybe the pigeons, and they brought it over to the horse race, the thoroughbreds. Anyway, it shut racing down, and my mum had lived in Brisbane for I think about 2 or 3 years at that stage. Already moved from Canberra to Brisbane to work for immigration. And Mum goes, "You haven't come and seen me the whole time I've lived here. Why don't you come on for a holiday?" And I'm like, "Yeah, right, eh?" So I went on a holiday out there for a month, and I didn't even come back. I said, "How good this place?" Like, by the time I've done 10 years in Sydney, it was great, and the travelling was good, and the riding and that, but just the change of pace, and obviously that country still, not country boy, but that Canberra boy still in me. Yeah, I just got up here and I was like, how good's this? It's so much slower, and everything's no one's screaming at each other on the road, like road rage and that sort of stuff. So I did same thing again. I didn't even pack my stuff up. I rang a removalist company and said, pack it all up, mate, and send it this way. And that's how I ended up in Brisbane.
Mate, I went down for a few trials and all that, just in Sydney, out the back, Balmain, West.
and showing me age there. West was, you know, they were still in the New South Wales Cup. I don't know if they still are, but oh, mate, I know what you're talking about. I spent like 3 days, 4 days there. I don't know how you did 10 years.
Yeah, well, like I said, going from that first transition from Canberra to there, I thought, how great's this?
Yeah,
like, you know,
true.
and you do see the life light, and you know, you obviously riding against better jockeys, and you see these trainers and these jockeys that you've just idolised your whole life, and next thing you're with them and you're riding with them, and you're riding winners with them, and then you're becoming friends with them, and it's the bright lights, you know what I mean? And it's a great place, but the cost of living was crazy still, even back then, 10 years, 15 years ago. And like I said, just the multicultural sort of situation in Sydney is just crazy. And just mixing all those people together, and it's just a real head fuck sometimes, to be honest. And just like I said, that Canberra coming out of me too was more like, you know, Brisbane settled me more. And at that stage too, I wanted to have children too. So you get to a stage where, like, I've been in Sydney for 10 years. I'd seen a lot. I'd seen one of my best mates been shot. I've seen
what?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Long story. I'll cut it down to real, like probably 3 years into it. We used to go to the trots.
Yeah.
So we all went out to, I think it was Harold Park. I think Harold Park Trots, or one of them trot scenes out there, and we all went out and we went to a nightclub after, and one of my mates was shot in the back of the head over a pool game. So
what, like?
Yeah, shot in the back of the head.
No,
not dead. No,
not
still
not
alive
dead.
to this day. Lou Quintana, still to this day. So, yeah, crazy things. Like, so that's like, you know, and like I said, a kid from Canberra, like, you know, and I used to take that, and I just remember laying in bed one night going, how freaking wild is this? Like, you would never bring your children up here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not what I mean. And like, I used to live at Warwick Farm, and Warwick Farm's sort of like it's rough, you know what I mean? It's the rough side of town. But the end, when I moved out to Randwick, was a lot better. But yeah, I've seen a lot from my apprentice. The last 6 months of my apprenticeship to the 2 years I did there, that happened. Nearly get run over one day by a bloke's stolen car and that sort of thing. You just see all these things and drugs, and you just get exposed to everything, you know. And it just, like I said, from Canberra and that sort of thing, it was big. It was a lot to take in, and like I said, eventually when Brisbane come up, it was like, this is where I need to be if I want to have a family.
Yeah, it's all happening down in Sydney, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just too much, you know. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, people love it, and I loved it for 10 years. It was great, you know what I mean. And the lifestyle's good, and you make a lot of money, and you do a lot of traveling. So you sacrifice that side of things, and my weight was always better down there because I was so consistently riding every day and things like that. So, but like I said, I got the experience to ride with some of the best jockeys in the world at that time. Like Darren Bevan took me under his wing there for a little bit, and we had the same manager. And like I said, riding winners for Bart Cummings and Graham Rogers and all these sort of.
Isn't that a feather in your cap? Great man, Bart Cummings. Quick story, side story. We went down the Melbourne Cup, went down there with Marky, old man Menyon, stood him next to the Bart Cummings statue, dead ringer. I'm just like absolute. There's a photo of him in there, and they're holding the race book, and he's leaning like that way, and I was just like, oh my God.
So one thing I've, like, obviously he's passed and that sort of thing, and great memories. But my mum said to me about 4 or 5 years ago, she goes, "You got a heap of shit here that you've had for years. Like, you got to come and sort through it, because I'm cleaning the house out. My mum's retired now and this sort of thing." Anyway, she goes, "You wouldn't believe what I found." I'm like, "What's that?" You've got a laminated letter from Bart Cummings when you must have applied to go overseas to ride. I said, "Get out." She goes, "I swear to God." And it was like proper Bart Cummings racing letterhead. I don't think he would have wrote it himself. Obviously, one of his secretaries would have wrote it, but it's got his signature on it, and it's all laminated and that, and I must have kept it. So that's just one thing that I've got that I'll be able to cherish forever, you know.
How good. I don't know how many times I heard, like, this is talking about keeping things, all the old boys who I played rugby league with, and I'd go to the parties when I was a young fellow, like Mark Shipway and all these guys at Redcliffe, and their wives would be like, "Oh yeah, he played here," and I was listening. "Oh, they've been overseas. He played at this club." Like all these guys had played NRL and, you know, finishing up their career, and their wives would always go, "Yeah, I wish we kept something from that, or I wish I kept a jersey from that." So I kept a jersey from every single team. I got and I thought about throwing them out about 20 times as well, because they're lugging around. But now I'm looking at them going, "Oh, how good's that?" I'm glad I kept them, because when you're in the moment, like you said, you think it's all going to last forever. There's another jersey coming. There's another winner coming. It's going to be there. But yeah,
there's no way in the world that I said I'm going to get this letter laminated. I don't know who did that for me, but
Yeah.
whoever did that, thanks.
Thank
'Cause
you.
I've
Yeah.
kept it, and it's in mint condition. You know what I mean? But just things like that, you know, and like I'll keep that for the rest of my life, and whether that means anything to my children or whatever later on. But like Sonny, with your jersey, at least you got a story to tell. You know,
Yeah.
oh, I've done this. You know what I mean? And you can do whatever you sort of stick your mind to. And
Well, my grandfather is Desi Mannion, captain Valleys in BRL to many grand finals, not premierships, because that's when North's Devils were unbeatable, basically, and ended up at Brothers for the last of his career. But, you know, you say his name in Brisbane and everyone knows it. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Fatty the other day about it. He goes, you're Desi Mannion's grandson. And then he started rambling stories about being there. And I was like, yeah, mate. So, but to say that, I never got to meet him because he died at 38. He died at my age now.
But he's got a legacy.
He's got a legacy, and I know who he is through those stories and through stuff that, you know, Nana kept and all that. So, yeah, I find that if history isn't kept, it's lost.
100%.
Yeah, and there's so much digital content and all that now, and I get worried about 99% of my photos or videos or something like that of Sonny's all on my phone or all in the cloud, or you switch the power off, they're all gone. Like he doesn't exist.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
So the transition up to Brisbane, you dropped, called the removalist, said, get me gear, move on up. How long did it take for you to establish? Like, what age were you there? What did you do? Did you get an apartment and did you just rock up the races and go, I'm Ryan Wiggins, can I have some more rides? Like, what happened?
Well, it wasn't that easy. And I was obviously a bit scared because that even to do something like that, even from moving from Canberra to Sydney, I had to pretty much get a shove in the back. And then when I was there, I was fine. But then moving that transition from Sydney to Brisbane, that was another big step for me. And even for me, as much as I might be a little bit outgoing towards people or think people might think I am, I'm very shy and kept, and I like keeping my small little circle and that sort of thing, and don't like trying to get outside the circle too much. And that was a big step for me, you know, that sort of thing. And so I just thought, well, I'm just going to live with my mum for a bit, you know what I mean? And my partner at the time, she come up and we just stayed there at my mum's. And it was good though, because financially I was okay at the time. So I was like, you know, I'm not going to rush into this. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. And what I'll do is I'll ride work for 2 months, which is crazy. Like to ride work for 2 months and not take a race ride. Like people just, as soon as you turn up the track, they go, who are you? What have you done? Okay, we'll give you a ride next week. But I didn't want that. I just wanted to establish myself, get my weight right. That was the main thing. Like I'd had a bit of time off, obviously, from that EI thing, and like they'd pushed us like from not riding, but they were paying us at the time. We're getting like sort of a workers' comp payment. So I was getting enough money to survive. So, and like I said, financially stable at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take 2 months. I'm going to ride work. I'm going to train 3 times a day. I'm going to get my diet right, and I'm going to get my weight down. And then when I do it, I'm going to attack properly. And to be honest, it's probably the first time and only time still to this day that was the decision I made, and I stuck to it, and it worked. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, it worked. Like anything I manifested, it happened straight away. Like I'm going to do this. I'm going to ride winners straight away. My first ride one. I'm going to pick the right horse, and then if things happen, it'll happen. But that's what I need to do to try and make it here. And yeah, it worked.
So how old were you there? 28, 29?
27, I think. 27. Yeah.
That's a good mindset for a 27-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you've been 10 years in the limelight. Career started early in Canberra. So you sort of understood the industry. I always say that within the podcast, 10 years and you're an expert. You know, 1, 2, you're learning, 5, you're good at it, 10, you're an expert. So you've already done 10 years. You know what's going on. You've seen everything.
And even to think about now, I've been running for 20 years now.
Yeah, wow.
That's crazy. And I'm only 40 years old, just turned 40. So it's like people look at you and they think you're sort of still youngish, but, you know, to other jockeys, you're starting to look a bit old. But at the same time, I've seen everything. I've seen everything. Like, and I try to explain to people too in races and things like that, going out in a race and seeing what happens in front of me and what's going on is just so second nature now. I've seen this replayed over 1,000 times. Like, I know what position I've got to do to get in to win the race and all this sort of thing. So, but yeah, like obviously going back to moving up this way, it was a good transition and it worked. You know what I mean? Like I said, when you stick to something and you manifest something and you set yourself a goal, it was really good for it to come off. And yeah, the first couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years, was really, really fruitful for me and established myself here. And yeah, I was off and gone.
Yeah, that's when I sort of first met you, when you come up the Sunshine Coast, and you know I was
Cup day.
Yeah, Cup
How
day.
many years ago was that,
mate?
Because that's what we used to do. We used to ride Sunshine Coast Cup and stay the night and just go and stay in for Noosa for a couple of nights, or they go with a partner and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember
for dinner one night.
Yeah, I remember we came up. Hammer and all that came over after the races. I would have been just retired from footy, so I would have been 28. It would have been 12 years ago. Would have been
Crazy.
12 years ago. That's
Crazy.
nuts. That's insane. Thinking about that. But yeah, I remember just like, because I was like, obviously had heaps of mates like Mitchie and all that who were in racing. And I remember starting following your journey and everything, just watching you ride and watching you race. And I'm going, you guys got some talent here. How good. Like it's weird because the racing industry is rather you bet on your races and you got no idea about the sport, or you can see those little things. You can see the game plan. You can see how a horse is traveling. You can see when they're, you know, holding it back on the bridle. Like you start learning all those things after 10 years of watching racing essentially. But, you know, so you were going great guns in Brizzy. How did the Group 1 ride come about? You know, so you've established yourself, you've got winners, but there was still that, you know, the carnivals up here, the Group 1's up here. You hadn't got that winner yet. So
yeah, and had ridden in them in Sydney and things like that. But like you said, Sydney's a different ball game. Like you know, for someone like me, you're dealing with the best jockeys in the world. We're not saying they're the best, not the best jockeys in the world up here, but the opportunities up here to me to find the right horse or something or strike a Group 1 was a lot. Not say a lot easier because I still had to work hard for it, but at the same time too, I could see the opportunity there. I could see light at the end of the tunnel. So I was lucky enough that I was still am a hard worker, but in a different way. Sort of, I was a hard worker. I was always riding work all the time, and my manager at the time is still my manager now, Brad Glendenning. He said to me, Noel Mayfield Smith from Hawkesbury used to ride for him, and that he's bringing a horse up. I said, oh yeah, and he said, can you help him out and ride at work? He'll pay you. I'm like, pay me to ride work? Like I'm not. That's like
unheard
it's hard
of.
to explain. You know what I mean? It's like what you do on this, rendering and that sort of stuff. You're like you coming and having to do the job yourself. Like I don't want to do that. I can get paid to get someone else to do that. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like anyway, me back then, me now, I would say no.
Yeah.
But back then, I'm like, yeah, righto. And he's like, Glenn Collis is riding its next 3 starts. I'm like, oh, fuck, well. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm there anyway, so I'll help him out. And he was good to me back in the day, Noel. You know what I mean? It's not like he wasn't just a random bloke that never helped me out in my life. So
yeah. And just to break point there, that is a huge difference as well. Like a good track work rider can be a massive difference in training the horse.
100%.
It is like, so it's not when you say you can get other people to go do it. Yeah, you can. Yeah. But then there's, you know, guys like you who know how to work them, know when to pull them up and come back and give the proper feedback so then they can make
and that's, mate, and all that is experience.
Yeah.
All the time I spent in Sydney, I worked for the best trainers, you know, and you might have only rode a few winners here and there for them sort of blokes, but you rode from, I've seen exactly what every trainer, I know exactly right now what Bart Cummings would do for a horse that's running in town in a 2,000 metre race, what he'd do 4 days before the race. It's in your brain forever. And you don't forget those things, you know what I mean? And I think myself, and like you said, experience, I've been around enough I think I'm a pretty good judge of track work and that sort of thing. And I kind of, and because I work so hard and I always rode a lot of work, you become better at anything, like anything. You practice shooting 3 throws, you're going to get better at it no matter what. If you're there every day doing it every day, you're going to be better than the person behind you that's doing it once a week. So I become very good at it. And like I said, Noel was he was a bit of a stickler for track work too. So my manager's like, you ride this horse work, you're going to get paid. Another jockey's already riding it, and he's going to be a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? Because he's not going to let you get away with anything track work wise, sort of thing. Yeah. So, but he was good, Noel. Like, he's a very astute trainer.
Astute.
Oh yeah, like we're talking like, you'd be out half a second in your track work, and he's giving you a spray. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing to do. Like, you've got to have a mental thing in your brain going all the time about how speed you're going on the horse, and horses can convince you that they're going faster than they really are, or slower than they're, by how strong they are and that sort of thing. So, but I was lucky; I got on pretty well with the horse. And long story short, to be honest, I rode at work. Glenn Collis rode it twice, and then he got suspended, he must have got hurt. I reckon he got hurt. And he's like, "Do you want to ride the horse in the Stradbroke?" Ooh. And I'm like, "Yeah, fucking course I do. I'm not going to," you know what I mean? And the horse was probably no chance at the time, which was fine, you know what I mean? So I rode the horse in the Stradbroke, and it went okay. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And then Noel was back down to Sydney on his ferry way. So then fast forward 12 months again, Noel's coming back with the same horse again. He's like, "Do you want to ride at work again?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, righto. Like, I'll do it again." You know what I mean? But he did reward me with the ride. You know what I mean? Yes. At the end of the prep, he could have put anyone on the horse, and there would have been decent jockeys in the room still to that day that didn't have a ride in the race, and he was returning the favour, sort of thing, for me helping him out. Anyway, as it turned out, pretty much the same thing. He's like, "Glenn's going to ride it." Glenn won one of them races that I was riding at work at won the Prime Minister's Cup down at the Gold Coast. Anyway, he's like, Glenn's going to ride the horse again, but he can't ride it first up. Do you want to ride it in the BTC Cup first up? I said, yeah, righto. And we're talking like, it is kind of now lead up to them sort of races, like to the Stradbroke and that sort of thing. But we're talking like the horses that were nominated for this race, these horses are freaks. Like we're talking like Buffering, Temple of Boom, Spirit of Boom, all these good horses. And this is just like a tune-up race from one of them to win a Group 1.
Wasn't that a great era though?
Yeah.
That era, that like 3-year period of those horses was like,
there's like 5 horses in that race that every time they raced every 2 weeks, they were getting a different winner.
Yeah.
It's a different horse, you know what I mean? And to be honest, Buffering was a good horse then, but he wasn't the horse he was like 2 years after that.
No.
Like he was struggling against them sort of horses. So anyway, Noel's like, you can ride him first up, but you can't. Like he's been booked for him. So I said, yeah, sweet. Anyway, I'll get him something out of it, you know what I mean? And the horse won. Yeah. Like just randomly, the horse won. I just, there's no pressure. The horse had been working really well leading up to that stage. Like I was quietly confident because I'd ridden the horse last season and then was riding with this horse is like improved. Like he's got better and he's stronger and he's breathing better. And I don't know, there's just something about him. Like he might have him a bit wound up for this sort of first up sort of thing. And he's 20 to 30 to 1 against these sort of horses. Like these sort of horses have knocked off many Group 1s already. And he's just been battling around running, nice 4th and 5th in these sort of races. Like it was a good job of Noel to even think that he could win one of these races, to be honest.
Yeah.
He had a lot of faith in the horse. So yeah, cut to the day and there was no pressure. There was nothing. There was like, just ride him at the back, bring him to the outside. Hopefully he runs on good, you know what I mean? And just, keep him balanced, that sort of. So I'm going out there to a Group 1, which I've ridden in them plenty before, but the first time I've ever ridden in one, there was no pressure at all. Like usually you're under the pump, like this horse needs to win this, or you've got a bad gate, or and
get him 1-1 from barrier 17 for me.
And probably never ridden anything with. I've had chances, but not. I've ridden a couple of places in Oaks and that sort of thing. But they were horses where, like I said again, there was no pressure, and they're probably just struggling to get in the race, but they've run really good races, sort of thing. So yeah, there was no pressure, and like I said, just treated like a barrier trial. He said pretty much going out.
Yeah.
His goal was the next couple of starts. So anyway, same thing. Just went out and just rode him like a barrier trial. And getting to the half mile, I'm going pretty good here. Like he's half like a bit strong, this horse, and I'm looking up and Temple of Boom and I think it was Buffering and cutting each other in half in front. And they're going fast. Like they're going pretty fast. So, and I just come off their backs and I just thought, oh fuck, this horse is going to run a really good race. Like, and I go past the winner post and I've won the race and I went, I didn't even pull the stick on the horse.
Wow.
Like, how wild is that? This horse is 30 to 1. I'll give it a slap down the shoulder and just went, and he just fucking blew him away. It was just crazy, And obviously your first Group 1, like everything just goes fast. And I had a little bit of tunnel vision, like down the straight. I'm like, I'm going good. Like, but I was just looking forward to, I'm going to run a good placing. And how good's this? It was a really good feeling, like a euphoria feeling sort of thing. And then you go past the winning post and go, holy fuck, that just happened. You know what I mean? You've been working for this your whole life and you didn't put any pressure on yourself and it just happened. You know what I mean? So it was a really good feeling, to be honest. And like I said, to be mixed up with a horse, and I went on to ride him after that and all the Stradbroke and the 10,000 and things like that. So he was a good horse to me.
Yeah, mate. I looked it up this morning. I just looked up that photo again of you coming across the line, and it's sort of like you're cheering, but there's that shock look on your face as well. Like
it was like it was too easy.
Yeah,
to be honest. Yeah. The horse race like it was $1.50, and all I had to do was just get him around and bring him to the outside
against that caliber.
Against them. And these horses went on and won like 20, 30 Group 1s between them. He'd never won another Group 1 again ever, this horse, but it's just the stars aligned. The horse is working good. I've ridden the horse before. There's no pressure. And it just all worked out, and it's all history.
Wow,
it's good to win one. Obviously, they don't come around very often. Like you said, now there's a lot more of them in Australia, and these jockeys, they win. These good jockeys, they get the chances of winning. And you know what? Nothing against owners, and they want to put the best jockeys on because they only get one chance at these sort of things, and that's what they've done. And and you're just lucky enough to win one. It's so hard to win one in Australia, to be honest. Like all these jockeys, they travel around, and it's a lot easier to win them overseas. There's a lot more of them, and stuff like that, New Zealand and even Singapore and them sort of places. But I used to give Ronnie Stewart shit all the time. He'd ridden like 5 Group 1s, but before I'd ridden my first one, I said, hey, you haven't won one in Australia yet. So he's lucky enough. A couple of years ago, you got to win the Sydney Cup.
So, that was a great ride.
So I was like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that was another one. No one expected him to do it.
Yeah, same thing.
Just written off out the back.
And you know what? And to be honest, and a lot of people know that in racing. I know Ronnie really well, and he's a really good friend of mine. I've known him since I was 16. We're from Canberra.
Yeah.
And
shout out Ronnie Stewart.
And no one else would have won on that horse, mate.
Yeah.
Because I watched the race and they go, I don't know how you held that horse for that long, mate. Because I'm like I am now these days. I'm like, I would have got down the back and went, all right, mate, pull this. Off you go, buddy.
Yeah.
And Ronnie just sat there and you could just see his little body. He's so small, Ronnie, like this. And he's so strong, though. And he just held it and held it and held it for probably an extra 400 or 500 metres than any other jockey would have given a fuck about doing. And it won him the race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's crazy.
Mate, isn't it? It's so weird. People think, once again, who don't understand the sport, like how much technique and technicians and decision making that goes like you can get throw the book at it in a bad ride in an 8-horse race on a class 1. If you do something stupid there, throw the book at it. But people who throw the book at you in group races like that, like, come on, man.
And a lot of these jockeys don't get that many goes at them. So when they're out there, they're just doing their absolute best. Like, I just want this horse to win. And like, there's great jockeys and they get to ride many of them. They ride plenty of Group 1s, but the jockey's sort of like me. You don't get many chances, and when you get that chance, you need to make the most of it. You know what I mean? And you manifest things happening, and you've got to really think about stuff. And everything needs to go your way. Like, you don't need to be a hard luck story. You know what I mean? Like,
talking about good jockeys getting good rides, like that was the one story that I remember was when Winks was going. Was it 3 or 4? Cox plates, one of them. Anyway, the rail was off, the inside was off, that whole ground. But Huey took up one of his rides in like race 3 and just tested it. Went down there and just went, and it was $1.50 or $1.80 favourite, and it just went plug. He goes, I'm not going there. Yeah. So, but what about if you're the owner of that horse? I told you not to go there. Oh, just just in case. Ride Winks later.
You can walk the tracks all you want, but unless you go over them with a horse, it's different. You know?
Yeah, but it'd be different if that was like a stakes race for someone who hadn't done a run. There's like, that's the point. Like, Huey knows he's got 3 more Group 1s coming up, and then he's got 30 more for the year. So, we'll throw this one.
And people don't realise, like, and I used to say that to everyone all the time, like, when Winks was winning all these races, like, they're all saying, oh, yeah, she's the best horse, anyone could ride her, like, even I could ride her, she wins that easy. I'm like, people don't realise the stress that he would have went through those couple of years. And I reckon it dulled on his career after she retired.
Oh, it had
to.
He
took a backward step for a long time. Huey was like, I just need to chill out. Like, I just don't want to hear her name again. Like, he would have been stressed out to his eyeballs. And just things like the whole country's on your back. Like, they're all like, you miss the kick or you make a bad decision.
Well, there was that one run second up where who booted clear? There was no way that he could have won. Like, the winner was, I think it was about 15 lengths off in the lead at the 400, and he was in the pack, at the back of the pack, which actually slowed down the tempo even more.
I reckon it might have been the time. There was one time that I thought was that this might be the same race, but they actually tried to put earmuffs on her to try and sell her down in the gates, because she used to play up in the gates.
Yeah. And
she come out the back and she was like, kind of didn't want to tack on, and people don't realize that earmuffs, they can really, the horses can take them the other way. Like, they can really settle them down, but at the same time, they can really slow them down. It's like driving a car that's in neutral all the time. You're trying to put it in first gear, but it won't jump into first gear. Yeah. And it takes a lot of, convincing to do it. And I think that might have been one of her runs. Yeah. That was that run. And that was like, I remember watching going, oh, she's going to get beat today. She's too far back. But good horses,
find a way. That was like, yeah, I remember.
But the stress he would have been under, mate, like, people don't realise. Like, I used to just watch and everyone go, how good's he in Winks? And I'm watching it. And the first thing I think of about how Huey's feeling. Yeah. Like, I know he's confident in that, but deep down inside, he's like, one day it has to happen. Like, he gets to a stage when they're 20 wins up. Like, she's got to get beat sooner or later. Like, it's a law of averages. Like, I haven't seen that in my lifetime. Or a lot of people won't see that in their lifetime. And racing good horses. So sooner or later, someone's going to get the pinch on you, or she's going to be having an off day or something like that. They can't
go on the early crow.
Well, they can't talk. You know what I mean? So, but he did well. And like I said, I reckon a couple of years after that, he really took a backward step. And now since he's gone back to Hong Kong, he's having another full crack again. Yeah, but that would have been very stressful to de-stress out of that whole
situation.
Yeah.
And same with Black Caviar, Lukey Nolan overseas at Royal Ascot.
He did the same thing. Yeah,
like, just eased up, felt a little something in the horse, thought he had it home, and got in by that. He nearly got. If that happened, if he didn't win, he would have got crucified. That was it. That would have been. That's like a politician and a sex scandal. Basically, your career's over.
Yeah, exactly.
If Black Caviar got beat at Royal Ascot,
and especially overseas, like, it's such a big thing for Australians to go over there.
Yeah, and the Pommies would have loved it. Just 100%. Fed it to us a million times. But mate, so I mean, you're in a good mindset there.
Mm.
Were you training in the background? What,
Yeah,
what was everything going?
I was doing a lot of training. As you know, I was training with Corey. I've been with Corey for a long time.
Yep.
Boxing. Corey McConnell.
You go good.
World champion boxer. Oh.
Yeah, mate, for a jockey, I've
good,
seen
good at hitting the pads.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of. Hey, didn't you have a fight?
Yeah, I had a fight. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I liked it. You know what I mean? But thing with boxing is too, it's something that I should like experience. Probably only the last 10 years, it's like got on my radar where I wish I would have loved to have been doing it when I was 18 years old. So it's probably something I would have pursued, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of our size and that sort of thing. But yeah, as you know, you get older and you get slower and that sort of thing, and you're trying to you try to learn something that your body won't react to, you know what I mean? Where like riding comes second nature for me. Like, but if you're out there trying to teach me to surf now, like it'd be hard work, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it was good and I love it. But it was the only thing that I used to like. People go out and run the streets and lose weight and that sort of thing. It becomes a real monotonous. Like it's just, I can't. I know you love running. I can't do what you do. Like I just don't have it in me.
Yeah,
I can sit on a treadmill and watch a podcast, but I can't go out and run the streets. I don't know why I can't do it. Or even used to my ex partner. I used to say, I'll put the sweat gear on, I'll run for 2 hours. I don't come back. I'll just run like I've got nowhere to go for 2 hours, and then you'll have to come pick me up because I couldn't turn around because I knew how far it was to come home. Yeah. And I don't have that mentally in my brain. Yeah. So boxing was one thing that I liked doing. It was training, but I was also teaching myself something different, and it was keeping my mind manipulated that I wasn't actually training or losing weight because I was actually trying to learn something. Yeah. And I enjoyed it.
That spark.
Yeah, like I enjoyed
Corey, especially Corey McConnell, world champion boxer.
Yeah, he's gone.
Gone.
Still is gone.
Yeah, still is.
He's mad as a hatter, but he's gone.
So I actually played, like my first couple of games of Q Cup was against Jock, his brother, Brent McConnell, because he was like...
Good football.
Yeah, great football for Burleigh Bears. I actually got to play Oztag with him in a couple of rep teams later. And I was like, hey, Jock, there you go. Yeah, and Corey, so that's a great like sporting family there. But yeah, to be learning of someone like that as well.
Well, that's the same thing too, like you said, like a world champion boxer. And Corey's he's a bit like me. He's a bit OCD. Like he go, oh, I'm going to teach you. I'll coach you to help you lose weight and that. But I ain't fucking just going to go out and hit the pads. And you're going to hit the pads like 50%. No, everything. Yeah, we're not doing this, mate. You got to learn something, and I'm going to teach you and do it fucking properly. And that's what he's like. You know what I mean? And he's good like that. Yeah, obviously after the Group 1, it was great. Like it was, everyone's full of praise. Like, he works hard and he's been here for 2 years and he's been working his ass off and he deserves this. I remember even like Rob Heathcote saying to everyone, like they were interviewing him because I knocked him off on buffering and they said this was buffering's Group 1. He's finally going to win a Group 1. And here I am knocking him off. And he said, as much as it was sad that I couldn't, someone like Ryan, I've seen him. He's been working his ass off for 3 years here. Like, turns up, rides work 5 days a week and he's working really hard to keep his weight down and that's what he actually deserves this. So it is what it is. And that was really nice of Rob because he's not really nice at saying nice things to people. But at the same time too, I'll always remember that because it was like, justification, like what I've done. As much as I won a Group 1, it'd be great to tell show my dad and this is what I've done and my family. For someone like him was like, you kind of deserve that because we've been watching you and, so things don't happen for no reason,
No, that's right. So where did that work ethic click in? Like, where did you pick that up from and how? Like,
my old boss in Canberra.
Really?
John Morris. Oh, yeah. Worked to the bone, mate. And, we say it these days, and any jockey will come on here or a trainer or any owner or anything will say to you, apprentice these days, it's totally different. Like, the world's changed. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but my era, like, I'm 40 now. So when I was an apprentice, used to work 6 days a week. You get 1 day off a week, one afternoon off a week. And I used to work for John Morris. He had a lot of horses in work, and we used to start at 4 and we'd finish about 12. Have a lunch for an hour, and then just go back and just keep going back into the afternoon. So it was pretty much a full day job. Where these days, they would never do that. Like it's 4 till 7, and then you get like a 5 hour, 6 hour break, and then you might come back in the afternoon. But a lot of these kids these days, they don't have to go back in the afternoon. Like they've got races and that sort of stuff. But there wasn't as much racing obviously when I first started. Like I pretty much was only riding 2 or 3 times a week until I moved to New South Wales. But yeah, he as much as it wasn't fun, but then when it's in your brain, it's like I always meet football players all the time and they're like, yeah, we are football and blah, 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 and I'm training and I was a pain in the ass and, we used to work our asses off. And I say, what do you do now? He goes, yeah, I still train. They all train, mate.
Yeah.
They all still, it's like going to the army. Like you've got that in your brain and that sort of thing. That's what you do. You get used to, you get up and you make your bed every day and you make sure everything's clean and you make sure everything's straight and then you go out and exercise. And And they know mentally that's how you feel good when you do that sort of thing. Like you know yourself, when you stop, when I stop and I'm not training properly, I'm not eating properly, my mental health changes. Everything changes. Things don't go as good. And then you know what you need to do to get back. So that's what you do. So I think back then it was definitely ingrained into me. Like my dad was hard on me too, but at the same time too, John Morrissey worked me hard. And for a good 3 or 4 years. And even when I went to Clary Connors in Sydney, I always tell everyone this story because these kids are like, oh, I get worked too hard and blah, blah, blah. And we ride at a night meet and I've got to be at track work in the morning. I'm like, fucking please. Like my last day of my apprenticeship, like I've done 4 years. I've worked my ass off. It was a Sunday. It fell on a Sunday. And he's like, see you in the morning. After I rode a winner for him in town on Saturday, he's like, see you in the morning. I said, I'm finished. Like I'm done. Can I just go out tonight and have a good night? He's like, make sure you're there at 4:30 in the morning, mate. I was there at 4:30 morning, cleaning out boxes and cleaning out waters, and then that was my last day. And in the morning, actually, he come and said to me, "You don't have to come this afternoon. You're sweet, mate. You're right. You're there, you know?" But still, made me turn up.
Yeah.
And as much as I hated it, and I thought, "Fuck, there's no give or anything like that."
No.
Later on in life, it's like writing work and doing everything that's the easy part. It's sort of like the wasting sort of part's taken over, sort of thing. So the actual working hard is not that hard, to be honest.
No. Look, I had to learn that because growing up, I was always a balance between rugby league and surfing. Now, they're two contradicting sports because surfing is relaxed time, patience, selection, enjoyment. You still get a lot of power and you still get a bit of competition in there. But rugby league training, especially once I got to the higher levels, I had to learn that, no, there's no days off. And every session was high intensity. This is before they learnt, all these training methods, do shit 80%
Injuries.
fun before you get injuries. It was like strength as hard as you go. Now we're doing contact that afternoon, and then we're pretty much playing a game of footy tomorrow morning. And then in the Arvo, we're going to do this. And then, once every 6 weeks, we'll dabble with yoga. And then you'd feel really good. Don't get me wrong. You do that one yoga session with the chick, you go, oh, this feels amazing. I'm going to get into yoga. And then you go back and do high intensity sessions 5 times a week and try and play on weekends.
So I'll ask you this question then. And I find that stuff sort of interesting because do you think back then there was a lot more injuries than there are now?
Well, yeah. I don't know because I don't really pay attention to injuries right now or who's in, who's out. To be honest, I don't watch rugby league too much anymore. So I've just moved on from that part of my life, and I'm doing new things. I'm running podcast. I love podcasts. That takes a lot of my time. Dad, I still don't surf as much as what I do, but I think the wear and tear on your body in those, trying to make it, not so much, the top. We still had great care. You know what I mean? I did my ACL. I was in the operation room next week. Same thing with shoulders, rehabs. Everything was really good. But yeah, I just think that high intensity was just always bang, 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 bang on your body. And there would be little things like by the end of the season, beginning of the season, no tape in the dressing room. End of the season, everyone's got like, you got 7 bits of here. There's like the bill for the elastoplast by the end of the year would have been triple at least.
And so much contact.
Yeah.
Contact, yeah.
Well, see, this was in the era when Bellamy and Melbourne were flying high and you couldn't beat them. They were unbelievable team. Don't get me wrong. But they based their training. They were doing like full contact 3 or 4 times a week. Full contact in training. They were getting most of their injuries in training. But they were winning premierships and doing stuff like that. So then all these other teams tried to adapt this. Like coaches like, oh, that's what Bellamy and Melbourne's doing and they're winning. We're going to introduce more contact. And I reckon people drop like flies.
Yeah, imagine the players too. They wouldn't have caught that really well.
Mate, I remember some loser trying to prove his fucking point. Can't even remember his name. But he came in like we're doing like this little 2 and 3 drill, like shots, like wrestle, doing all that. And he's come in and he's drove his elbow straight into me sternum. This was like week 4 of the season. I was just like, yo, can you crack me sternum? Rest of the year, I had to play it. I had to go get needles before I played every time. And I was just like, that for me was one of the dumbest things on a contact thing. And I've heard it before, guys, it's illegal now, but mate, when people used to hold him up, the call was fucking drive him, get in there and drive him. If someone was holding him up like that, I'd see him from here to there away and I'd go,
drop to the ground.
Bang, ribs, something, that's me, you're out. Especially if it was a player of value. That's how rugby league was back in the day.
So a lot of it's changed now. Like
Yeah.
You obviously know a few football players, and so do myself now. And you'd be surprised how many days off they get and stuff like that now. It's like
I'm
they
an
get a day
advocate.
off and they play golf, and they get a day off to rest or the day off to recovery and that sort of thing. But they work hard, but once they get to a certain, I think that when they get into a certain level of fitness, that's when it's like horse training.
Yeah.
You got to get into a certain level, and then you've got to maintain that for so long.
Yeah.
So
and rugby league season is a long.
It is
long
now.
season. Yeah, so isn't it weird how that the
But
mentality changes?
Well, everything's changed. And
Everything.
Like, let's talk about sports, and obviously being a jockey, same thing. Like my dad used to struggle with his weight, and what we can do now, and the nutritionists we have, and that sort of stuff, and you have everything at your feet to make it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it does help. It does help,
mate. Okay, so love and life, how good? High five and riding winners. Going great within Queensland and Brisbane, established your name. A little holiday came knocking. Where'd you go?
I went to Mauritius. Yeah.
Mauritius.
Yeah.
I call it Maurice because I'm so bad at English. I've got a podcast I speak every day, and the language.
I actually went there for the first time I went there was like pretty much straight after Group 1. Like they said, like they have this, they have a season. Their season goes from like March till November, and I think the Group 1 was in say May. Then I rode June, July, August, and then they said, "Oh, do you want to come ride for 3 months? September, October, November?" And I was like, I needed a holiday anyway. I was like, this will be a good working holiday. They only race once a week. The weights are raised, which is great.
Where is Mauritius?
Mauritius is a small island of South Africa. 3 hours from South Africa. It's their Bali.
Yeah,
it's
right.
our Bali. Yeah, same thing. Beautiful beaches. Everything's cheap. You can have really cheap accommodation. You can have really expensive accommodation. But this thing is this little island. Right? They reckon it's the quarter of the size of Tasmania, and just under 2 million people live there on this island. But they all live in the same spot in town. So there's this town and everyone's there, and then there's just heaps of land. Like there's a lot of farming and that sort of stuff, and you can travel from one end of the island to the other in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. But yet everyone was just condensed in the one populated area. So yeah, it was wild. It was the first time I've ever been over there. I was like, oh, this is going to be wild. No, lucky enough, a lot of jockeys actually have been over there for that sort of, they've gone over there. This is something you've got to experience. They get like 10, 15,000 the races every Saturday. Old school, you can't, there's no corporates. You have to turn up to the races and bet. From Thursday to Saturday, they have the bookmakers on course, and you can turn up when the markets open up on a Saturday, and you can get on. Like these people are betting big money, you know what I mean? And they're a poor country, but for some reason that's their only thing. Like they don't have casinos, no gambling, no nothing, just the horse race every Saturday. And apparently it's the second oldest track in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's been around for a long time through generations and generations of people. And it's a tight track. There's nothing nice about the track. It's like a 50-cent piece. It goes up 3 stories from the top of the straight, from the bottom of the straight to the top of the straight to the winning post is 3 stories high.
So you're just like on a gradual gain uphill.
Yeah,
so no momentum, like they're fighting.
It's like a 250 meter straight, and it just feels like it takes forever to get there. It's just uphill battle. And poor horses, like they're not poor horses, but they do all their work early, and then they've got to do their best at the end. You know what I mean? So it breeds tough horses. They get a lot of their horses from South Africa and stuff like that. But yeah, the money's big, like big money, big cash money. You know what I mean? Sort of when you've got something like that, like gambling store and that, people are willing to put money towards horses. The prize money's terrible. Like it's like Gold Coast on a Saturday. There's nothing there. You don't even see that. Like I remember you just get the checks every week, and the guys told me, they said, you just get the checks every week and just put them in your top drawer. And then when you go to leave at the end of the year and that you got to pay tax, he said, just give them all the checks and that'll cover your costs. That's how much money you made. So it's nothing. There's no money there and that sort of thing. But gambling wise, because the owners are backing their horses, they put you on a retainer. So I was getting a retainer. I was getting about, the first time I went, it was only about 8,000 or 9,000, which I thought was great. It was like two grand a week or whatever, just to be there.
Yeah.
Give an apartment, a car, and then every time you ride a winner, the slings vary from $2,000 to like 7,000 Aussie. So I was like, that's pretty good money. Like I was riding winners in town and everything in Brisbane, but the prize money in Brisbane wasn't still that great then. And it was good money, but to make that sort of money tax free
Yeah.
was great. And you're on a little island like Bali, and it's like how good you only have to ride
And-
on Saturdays.
And you're not wasting.
Not wasting.
Yeah. So
But-
what did you ride at over there?
So this was the demise of my weight, to be honest. So I spent obviously 3 months there, just under 3 months, and the minimum I didn't ride 57. I think I rode it twice in 3 months. That was as light as I had to ride.
Wow.
So next minute I'm walking around like, I've let my body go. I was like, this is the best chance to let my body recover, let myself go, and just be a bit normal. The food is beautiful over there. Anything you can think of, they've got it. Seafood's cheap as. It was cheaper to eat lobster than it was to eat steak and stuff like this. So you're just going out and you're just going, I'll have a lobster and a steak. And if I don't eat it, I don't eat it. It's the same price as a steak at home. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I was probably eating too much and that sort of thing. But I did let myself go, and like I said, I only rode 57 probably twice the whole time. And yeah, I got back to Australia. I remember having my first. I was actually for Robert Heathcote. I had my first ride back on a Wednesday at Eagle Farm, and it had 60 kilos and it won. And I just remember pulling up going, holy shit, I feel terrible. Like I've never felt like this on a horse before, you know what I mean? I'd lost a lot of weight leading up to the ride. I had like 60 kilos. But anyway, I thought it would be right. I'll just chip away at it. And to be honest, it was just like an ongoing battle for the next 2 years to try and get my weight down. And I don't think I ever rode light after that ever again. Like 3 months I did there, and then I did another year and a half at home, and then they offered me to go back again. So I'm battling with my weight for 2 years. Like I'm riding like 55, 56, but like it's all of a sudden gone to a new level. You know what I mean? I'm getting older. My body's slowing down. You've let yourself go for 3 months, and you're just doing your best. But at the end of the day, I was probably only putting like 70 or 80% into it instead of 110%. And as you know yourself, put 110% into it,
Yeah.
you're only going to get 70% results. And that's what I got. 55, 56, struggling your ass out. Instead of waking up 55, 56, I was losing 3 or 4 kilos to get down to ride 54, 55, 56. So it wasn't great. So then when the opportunity come to go for a year, I'm like, fuck that, I'm going back. I need to go back. And the money was obviously great last time. So yeah, I spent 12 months, just under 12 months, 10 months. I did a whole season there. Me, Steve Arnold and James Winks. Brad Pegelli come over for a little bit. Matthew Palmer, sorry. And yeah, I think me and, who did I say the first jockey was? Sorry.
Nah, Steve Arnold.
Steve Arnold, sorry. Steve. Goodbye. Same thing, Steve.
Yeah.
So we're the only ones that lasted the whole season. Anyway, same thing. Steve come back to Australia, never rode again.
Yeah, he didn't, did he?
No, he had a couple of rides, and that was the end of him. You know what I mean? And he's always really struggled bad with his weight, but just that 12 months of just letting yourself go and he was always strict anyway because you had to be to ride that sort of weight. But I think it just gave him that little bit more leeway. When he come back to Australia, it was just, it stopped. And
oh, mate, I can contest to that letting yourself go or the comfort zone.
you imagine letting yourself go for 12 months. Like that takes it. You know yourself.
Well,
It takes 2 years to get back.
Yeah, it does. It takes 2 years, and that's dedication every single day. Because I remember talking to you over there, like, because this is when I was like sort of on my little bender, like all stuff like that. But I'd be awake early or, not sleeping right. What's Wiggo doing? I know he'd be awake about now,
Time difference.
Yeah, time difference. And you'd feed me a few stories and what's going on over there. But I remember when you coming back and I was in the midst of doing that and you asked me, you go, what are you doing? Because I'm struggling. Like I'm sick. I've come back and I'm just like heavy and I sort of, different directions. This is what I'm doing that. But I was in that 110 zone and I was like in the, just calorie restricting food, but my body enjoyed it. Like it was completely different. And I actually had a podcast with Hannah and she talks about the biohacking and your genetics and, what foods are right for you, completely different to me and our personalities and, fasting. And that's why I'm comfortable not eating all day and I can do the 1 meal a day and my body will run well off that where, there's others that need the 5 to 6, the short term, the turnaround and everything like that. And that's the best way for them, metabolism to kick. Yeah, that coming back. What did you have to do? How long did that take you?
It just didn't end. I don't think it still has. That was like 2017 to 2018. Come back, had a couple of months of riding, had an injury, broke my back, was off for 2 months, got married. Then you're on the same sort of like, I've just spent a year overseas. I've had 2 months off. Now I'm getting married. I'm going on a honeymoon. Like it just never stopped. You know what I mean? I was like, all of a sudden, I'm not saying it went on the back burner, but it's like, I've got to make a decision what I want to do now to keep riding. I either don't do it, I get my weight down, or I find some other option that that would suit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I tried for a long time, and I've always been clean. Like there's other people, like you can do other things to try and help yourself lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you'd have to take time off so you could take sort of drugs that you could use to help you with your metabolism. Because my metabolism just stopped. Like, I was, you know, you're talking like, you know, you're 37, 36 years old, and, you know, you've had a year off pretty much. You've just floated around and rode and just wasted your guts out here and there to ride heavy. And then my body's just like, no more.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're getting fat, and you feel like you look fat, and
Yeah.
you look fat yourself. You know what I mean? You look in the mirror, you're just not the same person. And it just comes to the stage where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I can't. I tried to get down to ride light a few times, and I did it. And you can always do it.
Yeah.
But like to do it week in, week out,
No.
is the next. Like Corey used to say to me, he goes, "Mate, I used to waste hard too, like because he was a good amateur career and that sort of stuff before and they have to do the wasting sort of thing and make sure they cut weight and that sort of thing, because we'd do it every 3 to 6 months, and then but when we're doing amateurs, we had to do it for a week straight, and that's it. You used to do it week in, week out, for 52 weeks a year." He said that is crazy.
Yeah.
He said, I know how. You don't understand. He knows, and I understand how strong you have to be mentally to continually do that for 52 weeks straight without any injuries, or you know, you have a holiday.
Not
here and there.
52. Then the season starts again.
It just doesn't end.
Doesn't end.
You get Christmas Day off and Good Friday off. That's all they've got. You know, and they're trying to get you to ride Boxing Day or the day after Christmas and that sort of thing. It's just crazy. So, yeah, I obviously started a small family, and we've had 2 children, and I was like, I just don't know. But the thing is with riding too, it's such a good life. Like if I could just ride and not waste, it's the best job.
Yeah.
Like it is the best job in the world anyway. And as much as I do it tough, and it's really hard sometimes, and mentally and physically, it's hard on my body, but it's still the best job in the world.
Yeah. Like you love riding.
But you imagine taking that wasting side out of it and just go, you just turn up the races, have yourself a coffee and turn up the races and ride 5 or 6 horses and go home and have a steak that night and turn up and do it the next day. You'd be just like, how easy is this? And then the thing is too, being a jockey for that long time, I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
It's hard for me, you know what I mean? I've done it from day one. I think I've had one other job since when I was a kid. I used to do the milk run before I started becoming a jockey, like with another jockey starting a milk run. And that's all I did. Like that's before I started riding, that's it. So I don't know anything else, and I'm not qualified to do anything else. You pretty much, if you leave what I do, you have to stay in racing, either whether it's training or just riding work for someone, or become a professional punter. I don't know what is there to do. You know what I mean? So, and you need to find something that you've lived this lifestyle your whole life too. You know, it's hard and it's great at the same time too, but the money's good.
Yes.
And these days, when I tell people what sort of money I make or what sort of money you see other jockeys make, they go, "You what? You make that much money?" And I'm like, yeah. Like they make that much money. Like there's big money. Like look at people like Zach Purton and James McDonald.
That's insane.
It's just crazy. They're people that
What about K-Mac when he went on that run? He won the Everest and the Melbourne Cup in the same year. There's 600, 800K.
And like your best football player in NRL is making 800, maybe $1 million a season. But that's after he takes his managers, his tax and everything out. By the time he clears everything, he's making 400,000 or 500,000. You know what I mean? These jockeys are bringing home $1 million, $1.5 million. Like, you know, the top ones. And then you got someone like Zach, who's taken it to another level, and he's making probably $2 or $3 million a year, or whatever. Possibly it could be on the side, like sling wise and that sort of stuff. So
he rode 5 winners on the weekend, just gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. Insane. So, you know, and people don't realize that's so you get seen that your whole life, and you go, okay, well, I'll just go do a job and make $60,000-$70,000 a year. It's impossible unless you've been lucky enough to be lucky with your money, good with your money, which none of us have. No, unfortunately.
Mate, I've only just start learning about money like the last, say, 4 years, essentially, because being in building has always been. I've made good money, but it's never in my bank account. There's $200,000 worth of invoices out there. That's it. It's flaboozy. It's that. And once I started understanding that you can leverage that and leverage this to borrow debt and buy investments, and then that creates cash flow, and cash flow is king. Well, now I start understanding how to use money and start using it. But imagine if you knew that when you're 20, you'd be done. Yeah,
and the thing is, and people say that too. Like they say, "Oh, if you were smarter with your money," because I blew all my money and I went through a divorce and all that sort of thing. Everyone's done that. And then you go.
Everybody's had a divorce.
If you haven't had one, you haven't lived.
I'll stick with a breakup, mate. I'm getting married in a
You're
week.
getting married in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Not a good idea.
signing me up already.
Especially at your age, not a good idea.
Yeah, Ellie block years. So.
It's just hard to transition to, like, not transition, sorry, to fathom, like, everyone said, oh, if you're smart with your money. You know what, if I was smart with my money, I would have retired when I was 30.
Yeah.
And what would I be doing then?
Yeah.
Great, have all the money in the world or whatever, and, it's great.
Yeah.
And it'd be a lot better off. But at the same time, too, I'm still doing what I love. I'm fit and I'm healthy. I'm keeping my body going,
Some people, it is the money, but then once they've established that, it's not. It's like, we're devised to do stuff. We need to be doing things as well. And especially people with no goals. And I see this with rugby league players who are finished and lose their identity. I don't know about jockeys or, I've met a couple who, and it's like you're out of the circle. And like you said, you either have to be a punter, trainer, or riding track work, or find some way to stay in the industry, or you're out. That's it. And then who are you? And people start, like, I wouldn't know Steve Arnold if I seen him down the street. But I know he was
Cox Plates, Melbourne Cups.
That's right. I know he was a good jockey, but I wouldn't know.
I just don't think I ever wanted to be that person who's like, who's that guy riding work? Like, young kid, like, they don't know. Young kids, you know what I mean? That's Ryan Wiggins. He used to be a good jockey. He used to be a good jockey, or he rode a Group 1 winner. And I was like, I don't want to be that person.
No.
Like, I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to.
Yeah.
And until my body says no more, which I'm pretty sweet at the moment. Like, I've been lucky with injuries and that sort of stuff. But these jockeys, they ride till, like, I don't think I could do that. They're riding till, like, they're 50, 55 years old. Like, Jimmy Byrne just got 2 knee reconstructions. I'm like, like 2 knee reconstructions.
But that's like the Steve Menzies, and there's Cliffy Lyons, like those blokes. Like, I love it, and if I could do something if I could surf for as long as I can, I will. But those guys are different. Yeah, they're different. Like, it's like, I need to play rugby league this weekend. I need to play.
Jimmy. He doesn't need to ride anymore. Like, he's done well for himself, and his name is not going to get any worse or any better from what he does now the next 5 to 10 years.
No,
but he's got 2 new knees. He's like, I'm going to get another 5 years out of this. And I was like, you're fucking mad. Like, what is wrong with you?
Just loves it.
Just loves it. Just hard about the game. And don't get me wrong, I am too. But he doesn't get the wasting side of it too. You know what I mean? Like, you throw that wasting side, like your Steve Arnold. Steve was like, put your hands up. I'm done.
Yeah,
I've done what I could done. I've ridden the Cox Plates, I've ridden the Melbourne Cups, and I've ridden overseas. He's ridden Hong Kong or whatever, and he's like, I don't need. I'm at peace with myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mate. I think that's a great way to end it, and I want to get you back on there and elaborate on where you are now, moving forward in your career. And that's another podcast in itself, because everybody knows, mate, you're killing it up north. So keep doing it, keep working hard. I just to give people a little bit of an insight, I think you went on a run there. You had like 30 rides and you banged, was it 22 winners, 25? It was insane in a 2-week period. I can't remember. And that was just through pure hard work. So, mate, congratulations. Like I said, massive fanboy. I love having you. I love celebrating your wins. I get on the back of them with you. I'm riding them.
You love it.
Mate, if I could have been a jockey,
you always meet people in your life, and I've met, like, especially football players. Football players always say, oh, you've got the best job in the world, mate. Like, everyone loves you. Everyone knows who you are. And he goes, don't worry, mate, you've got the best job. I want to become a jockey. I wish I could have become a jockey. There's so many people out there like that.
I think it's because you get that love with nature as well. And you're in love with, like, horses. I love animals.
Yeah.
And, like, I just
You've got to be an animal lover to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe I'll start training them. I don't know. There you go.
I think you've let you run a bit late.
See us in 60, 70 years. Yeah, I'll be banging me first winner.
You just got to live your life through Sonny, mate. Start him.
Yeah. Well, that's why I named him. I say it every time on the podcast. I named him Sonny. If he's not a professional surfer, I don't know what he's going to do with his life, man. So push my dreams onto him.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, Wiggo, thanks heaps, mate. I'll see you soon. Give us a like, share, subscribe, everybody. Get your family and friends involved. Any Given Chance podcast. Woo!